Thank you very much, everybody, firstly, so I've been blinded by light. The way the modern office operates nowadays is very, very different to how it did years ago. We've done a lot of research into the living office, as we call it, and Shazia is going to give you a very short insight into a lot of work that we've put into the modern office. If anyone's interested in knowing more, you know, we've got literature, we've got further presentations we can give, but this is a snapshot of a 2-3 hour presentation. At the end of it, I'm going to show you a trick showing you it's all about space. So I'm going to hand you to Shazia.
Excellent, thank you. As Andy said, I'm going to share with you our research on the living office and how it came about. We didn't start out to create or invent the living office or look at something like that. What we started to look at was how or what furniture can actually support interaction and collaboration. So we did a global study over 6 years, observing people in their workspaces to see how and what they do at work. And as we were doing this over the years and the days and the months, we discovered people are doing very, very similar things, just at different times during the day, but not always having the right space in which to do it. So that's how the living office was actually born. In order to get there, we looked backwards as well. And we've defined 3 main eras of change within the working environment. The first is the era of industry. This was a very process-driven time, very much about the management. Tools were very static. So basically you went to a room and I don't know if anyone remembers the typing pools, which everyone had to go in and type. That's where you were. That was your place of work. Places were defined by the tools that we had and also the management. And I always sort of, again, reference, if anyone remembers The Good Life, and how everyone aspired to be on the 7th floor with that glass window and looking out. That's where we were heading. So that was the era of industry. And basically, you were there to do your job. You were not there to think. And if you didn't want to do your job and you tried to think or move outside of your little space, then you could be easily replaced. We then moved on to the era of information, which is where there was more of a matrix organization. Management was changing. The tools, the introduction of the computer, that started the cubicles, which often Herman Miller get credited for. The earliest living office was actually a panel-based system that was designed to allow people to move around and that could be reconfigured in under 10 hours for 100 people. That's what it was designed for. The computer came along, everyone had their giant monitors and they never moved out of their cubicles. So that's how that ended up. So the places, once again, were defined by those very Dilbert cubicle type spaces, which I think if you told someone today, that's your office and you're going to be there for 25 years, they would probably say, thanks, but no thanks. And this is where we find ourselves now, in the era of ideas. We're moving to a place where management has changed. Very few people, I don't think, haven't got a smartphone or at least a mobile phone, which means that work can now happen anywhere, at any place, and any time. We're no longer confined to the office. And the realization of this is about the rise of the individual. So how do you actually attract and retain the best people? So why a living office? Well, for all of those reasons, really. We want to create a space. It's a holistic approach, which is customizing your methods, your tools, your places, and allowing individuals to have a shared and common purpose. Management. We find ourselves going from this kind of management, which is still, and I do understand and recognize that there are certain facilities that will require, maybe not quite so elaborate as that, but you do have, and I always get this argument, but if you're in a call center, you're always going to be in a row of places where you have to be making calls in a bit like the bull, just sort of, area where you have numbers being flashed at you. But you can also work in an environment like this. And management has to allow you to. This goes back to culture. The tools. There's a great saying where it says about the introduction of the fax machine and how that's going to make the overnight courier obsolete because now things will happen in a day rather than waiting overnight. Some people think it's a great thing. Other people think we're always switched on now. So depends which you think is right. And then the places, the cubicles to an open space like this. Where would you prefer to work? That's what we're looking at. And the living office is actually allowing people to do the job they need to do in the space they need to do it, when they need to do it. And I'm going to jump through this now because of time. And just go to There is no one size fits all, by the way. So we're not saying that everyone is going to have exactly the same office, because it's not going to work for everyone and in the space that you're in. So each living office, is going to be unique. However, there are certain characteristics, both cognitive and also physical, that all individuals need and crave. And I don't know if you can read them, but they are security, autonomy, belonging, achievement, status, and purpose. And there's a lot of study that's been done around these to say that what is it that actually makes people happy at work? What makes them want to go to work in the morning, stay at work for the whole day, and often late into the evening as well? These are the main fundamental, and they are fundamental to all. They're also, and as Andy mentioned, there's a deeper conversation around this, which are then unique characteristics of each business. How do you analyze those, and what are the spaces that they'll need, and what are the characteristics of the people working within there? But I am going to just skip that bit because of time. We then looked at, while we were going through the living office, is provocations, thought insights, where we sort of want people to think about why and how are they designing their space? Who are you actually designing for? The next big thing isn't for you. I don't know how many times you guys actually get asked this. We get asked a lot, and I don't think there is anyone from Google here. I want a Google office. Give me a Google office. Why do you want a Google office? Because that's the way that offices are going. And you think, but maybe you're looking at the front of it, and also you're not going to sit on a slide if you're a law firm. You're not going to want to be sort of jumping up and down on a bouncy ball. Google have designed their front space for a purpose and to attract certain people. So you have to actually look and analyze what is your business and who are the people that you're designing for within there. Workers are shoppers. If you're now trying to attract and get the best people, they will look at your business when they walk in and think, okay, what do I get? Do I get a nice chair? Do I get my own desk? Can I move around freely? Are there lots of spaces? Is there free coffee? So people are doing a little checklist every time they now go into a space. This I always equate to if you walk into maybe a restaurant and you look in there and you walk in and you think, oh my gosh, it's really empty and everyone looks a bit miserable in here, so we don't want to stay even though you've walked in. It's that gut instinct that you have, or when you walk into a property for the first time. So I think they say it's something like our minds are made up within 3 seconds of whether we like a place or not. This is one person's heaven and one person's hell. So we did a lot of research as well on creativity at work and how people go about being creative. And one of the key findings of that was that some people love to work with clutter and mess and have lots of stuff around them. And other people, very much a laptop and here I am. What we're saying here is recognize, especially in the open plan, tidy desk policies that we now adopt all over the place, some people like to have the space to make a beautiful mess. Living beats dying, so what is a living office and what is a dying office? Again, it's that walking into a space where you can feel the vibrancy and you can feel that people are happy being there. I worked very, very briefly prior to Herman Miller in a company for 6 months, and when you sort of, I think they spent $40 million on their headquarters. I can't tell you who it is, obviously, but you'd walk in this sweeping staircase and you'd go up and you'd think, wow, this is amazing. But the day you started, they're like, actually, you're not allowed to use this anymore. You have to go through the back door where only one light worked, go all the way upstairs, and you sat in the center, and all the management were around just peering in. Nobody said a word in there. Their turnover is something like 20 people a month, and they invest in your training as well. 2 weeks they send you abroad. But that, to me, epitomizes what it's not even dying, it's dead, in my opinion, as an office. You plus me equals 3. This is the heart of really the living office. It's about interaction. It's when 2 people are talking and bigger things are generated from it. So it's no longer thinking, oh, we must have all this space, we must do this. You could do this in a quiet space, 2 people, and then expand from there. This one should be forget technology, but often what happens is technology should be a given now. It shouldn't be, oh, have we got Wi-Fi? Is the computer working? I fully appreciate that it's not always like this seamless at the bottom, but it is one of the things where when you're designing a space, we're saying this should not be the main consideration anymore. The technology, that should be a given, that's how it's going to be. So where does all this take us? To the activities or the modes of work. So when I said we did a study and we were observing what people do, there were lots and lots and lots of different things that people do within the workspace.